I'm doing this video as a response to a Air Jordan's robbery gone wrong. There's this kid out in New York. He decides to go onto one of these mobile apps that allows you to sell items over the internet, very much like a Craigslist or eBay. Anyway, this kid, 17 years old, is African American, decides to find someone who's selling a pair of some retro Jordans, and he does. And the buyer and the seller being a 39-year-old guy, and the 17-year-old who decides to rob the 39-year-old at gunpoint when they do meet finally for the purchase of the Air Jordans. Well, anyway, the 17-year-old kid wasn't gonna have any, was not gonna buy any of the Jordans that the kid was selling, the other guy was selling. Anyway, what happens is the kid sticks him up at gunpoint, robs him of his Air Jordans, and I think it's maybe some money. Gets out of the car, starts walking back home, which he lived like right around the corner from where the robbery happened. Anyway, the car driver and the guy who was selling the Jordans who just got robbed does a U-turn and runs down this 17-year-old kid. Now the driver is now arrested for attempted murder, and the 17-year-old kid is arrested for strong-arm robbery. But during the robbery and the kid getting run over, right, he loses his arm, like from the elbow down. And that's the reason why the driver is arrested. The guy who was selling the Air Jordans was arrested for attempted murder. Now this kid shouldn't be robbing somebody for some Air Jordans. To me, Air Jordans are not like life for me. But ever since they came out in 1985, there has been nothing but like robberies, thefts, riots. I believe the first death over some Air Jordans was recorded in 1988. Some kid in a schoolyard gets choked out and dies from being choked out, for his Air Jordans. And that's the first death, I think, over a pair of Jordans, was some 16-year-old kid getting choked out on the school ground. And you have this kid, some 30 years later, 30 years. That means we have, ever since Air Jordans came out, it's been 30 years of like minorities robbing kids with Air Jordans, you know what I'm saying? And that's all. There's been like poems of a guy, I forgot what's his name, but he makes a poem of robbing Air Jordans, how important Air Jordans are to minorities and such and such and such. But I've been listening to a couple of responses over this kid losing his arm for stealing a pair of Jordans, and wow, it's from a lot of different kind of minorities, and they like almost commend the fact that, this is still going on, just with their reactions and whatnot. If you haven't seen the video, by the way, the best video I've seen is at Daily News. That's Daily News on YouTube. They have like the most clearest video ever. And there's this other popular guy, his name is Phil DeFranco Show. The Phil DeFranco Show also commentated on this robbery gone wrong. A lot of people are laughing about it because the kid loses his arm, but he survives. I'm not sure if his arm is reattached. But anyway, my thing is that it's been 30 years since Air Jordans had come out, and it's been, ever since they came out, been nothing but robbery, thefts, riots, you name it. And now since the advancements of technology, it still continues over social media. So how long is this going to go on? Air Jordans. I mean, my history, my own experience with Air Jordans. I had a elementary school kid who had retro 3s, I think. But of course, back then they didn't call them retro. They were just Air Jordan 3s or 2s or whatnot. And we literally would have to walk him home to school and walk him to class every day. He would never leave our sides. He was this little Filipino kid who was always getting punked. And a couple times he almost did get his shit jacked. But he lived close by to our elementary school. and we would pick him up in front of his house and and walk him to class. But it was a couple of times where he got scuffled for that, and he almost got scuffled for his Mike Tyson's Punch-Out game. Anyway, that's my history, my take on Air Jordans, how silly and retarded this is, and how that 17-year-old kid is just a reflection of how society, minority societies accept this thing, just this opportunity, this venue, this merchandise, and take it up to them as an economy to rob, steal, kill over a pair of just items, just idolizing these Air Jordans. It's not worth it. Anyway, that's my take. So like, subscribe,